How to stay consistent with your game. Hey, I'm Jacob and I help young game developers like myself with the lessons I have learned over the years. Just imagine two game developers for me. One of them starts a new game project and he's super excited. He invests a lot of his time into developing it, but then one day he sees a game with another cool mechanic. And that makes him bored of the game he's working on right now. And so he decides to scrap it and work on the next game with the mechanic that he just saw. The second developer also starts a new game project and he's very motivated. He works on it every day and spends a lot of his time on it. But then he gets a random thought about another amazing game he could possibly work on. This developer, however, follows the tips from this video, and so he stays consistent with his original game project. Who's going to be the better game developer? I would say the second person. I think getting one game finished is a lot better than having 20 unfinished projects. And despite that, I see a lot of developers who really can't finish a single one. And if you struggle with this, I have 3 strategies which may be of use to you. And they are the following. 1. Make a minimum viable product. 2 is playtest. And 3, take breaks. As always, timestamps in the description, so if you want to skip ahead or rewatch sections, you're welcome to do so. And starting with the minimum viable product. What is that? What is a minimum viable product? So an MVP, as it is called, is essentially the smallest game you can make that still shows off your idea. Now think of it, it's basically just a demo, right? That's the simplest way to call it. It's something playable that gives the primary experience of your game in a very kind of small section. So why should you focus on making an MVP? Well, for one, when you have a small playable version of your game, your motivation will definitely increase. I've always found that being able to post my demo out and being able to share what I made from my game makes me a lot more invested in it. And I'm less willing to scrap it as well. And another reason is that you'll be able to actually promote your game to others. So again, when you start making your game public, when you start posting, devlogs and you start doing these things, there's going to be pressure on you to keep working on the game. And that sounds like a bad thing, but I actually think it's a good thing, because if you have people expecting you to, work on this game, then you won't just randomly switch. You won't just give up on it. There's actually, there's a reason for you to keep working on the game. To an extent, obviously too much pressure is bad for you, but I think a small amount of pressure is very healthy. And another thing is, if your game is good, you will get positive feedback about it, and if it's not, well, you might have to fix a couple things. And I've always found that whenever I get some kind of positive feedback, it motivates me to, keep working on the game. And even when I get the negative feedback, it actually motivates me to fix the issues in my game. So I think getting feedback is good no matter what it is. And what should you include in your MVP or demo? And what shouldn't you include? Well, you want it for one to be interesting. The demo of a game has to be interesting for people to play. And I think you should try and include the most interesting parts of your game. A lot of people start from the introduction, and that's not a bad idea, as long as your intro isn't boring and it's not just a bunch of setup. There was a game actually called Little Nightmares 2 that came out a decent while ago, but they had a very good demo. It didn't start from an introduction. That's because if you're making a more story-based game, the introduction is normally just going to be set up. It's not very interesting for people to play. And they basically took an excerpt from a hospital section. And I think the way they did it, if you Google the demo and you play it, you'll know. I think that was a great demo because they didn't waste time on just story building or world building or that kind of thing. They just showed you exactly what the game was, what the gameplay looked like, what you were going to get from playing this game. and that's what you should aim to make your demo. So a good example I actually have is one of those samples from a supermarket. If you go to like, Lidl or whatever you have there, um, sometimes there'll just be like these like cups that you can try stuff from, and that usually gives you like a taste of what the product is, but it's not enough to satisfy you. It just leaves you wanting more and more, and that's kind of what you want your demo to feel like after you finish playing it. I guess just to sum up this section, want to build a minimum viable product or a demo to stay motivated on your game idea. You want to make it publicly available so people are interested and you can put pressure on yourself to keep working on the game. And you want to make the demo interesting and showcase the feel of the game above all. And the next part of the strategy is playtesting. And this is sort of related to the last chapter. You kind of want to playtest with a demo. So if you skipped it, then you might want to go back and figure out how to make a demo first. So how does playtesting help you stay consistent on your idea? Well, I think actually watching people play your game is one of the best parts of being a game developer. It feels like all your work is kind of coming together and it's finally being appreciated by someone. And that really makes me feel like my work matters. And when someone has a connection to their work, when they feel that their work is important, it increases their motivation. And another reason is that it actually shows you what the flaws in your game are. When people play your game, they'll obviously find bugs, they'll find problems, and they'll complain because that's what people do. And I think for me that's very motivating actually, because it kind of shows me what I need to change, what I can do to make the game better, and that's a really addictive feeling for some reason. And honestly, like adding content and just making systems for the game does get a little dull after a while. It's like 95% of the work. So when you get a chance to go back and kind of reiterate on some parts, kind of reimagine some things, it does feel like kind of a breath of fresh air, and your game will also be better because of it. So it's a win-win. And I do see a lot of people, and this is myself included, who tend to play test too late. They have like 90% of the game done before they ask anyone to, whether it's good or not. So if I had to go back to some of my old projects, I would definitely playtest earlier. I mean, even if like the graphics aren't that good, or some parts of the game aren't finished, like no one really cares. Like it's supposed to be playtested for a reason. Like people don't playtest games that are finished. So I think if you playtest early, it will save you a lot of time and effort in the future, and your game will just be like 10 times better. So playtest as often as possible. And I guess just the key takeaway for this section is, just playtest often, as often as possible in the development process. Don't worry if it looks unfinished. People don't expect you to playtest finished games. So that's it. And the last part of the strategy is to take breaks. Burnout in game dev is very real. With the amount of time it takes to make games, it's very easy to overwork yourself, to lose motivation, to give up. And that's why I think taking proper breaks, holidays, and just taking time away from technology or video games is very good for your motivation and consistency. I think not taking breaks is the biggest reason a lot of my projects failed or never actually made it into the hands of a player. Like whenever I used to go on holidays, I used to literally like bring all my like shit with me. I used to have like my laptop. I used to like be writing like story bits. I used to be drawing characters. Like that's just ridiculous. Like if you're going on holidays, just take a break from doing your work. It's supposed to be a holiday for a reason. Like I'm hoping that you're not that far down the rabbit hole. I can tell you that it's not worth it. Like it just makes you less motivated on your game. If you have the chance to take even like a 1 or 2 week holiday from your game, then I would definitely take it. It doesn't set you back that much. If anything, I think you would come back and feel more energized, and that would actually make you make more progress. just tell your team that, if you have a team, that you're just going away for a bit and leave the bloody technology at home. And you should also take breaks in between actual work periods. So, for example, let's say you work 8 hours a day on your game. Then, you don't want to work just 8 hours straight. I think hour and a half blocks followed by a 15-minute break are very good. Especially because game dev is more of a creative art, so you can't really just mindlessly sit down. Um, I think the shorter blocks are better, definitely. And this will really improve the quality of the work, and it'll give you more motivation to get back and fix whatever's broken. This is a bit of a wishy-washy section, but just to sum it up, burnout is a big cause of projects failing, and taking a holiday without your technology can kind of help you detox from it and can help you relax. And taking breaks in between your work periods can increase the quality and make you more motivated. So I've covered all three of the strategies, and I guess just to condense each of them into a single sentence, aim to build a demo as quickly as possible, play test and get feedback as often as you can, and just take adequate breaks and holidays. If you found value in this video, consider subscribing for more educational content on your homepage. Top links in the description are my Instagram and itch.io pages, so go drop me a follow there. And thank you so much for listening.